Welcome to Module 3 of Google Semantic Search with David Amerland. I'm Martin Shervington, and the question really for this module is what is new in SEO? And to kick us off, I'm going to ask David, tell me about keywords. Are they still important?
Keywords are a very contentious issue when it comes to semantic search. Very recently, Google removed the keyword reporting facility from Google Analytics, and this has taken away from traditional marketers one of the principal means they had of gauging the effectiveness of their marketing. Now, this is quite important because if you don't know how effective your marketing is, you don't know what you should be doing more of and less of, and it created quite a panic. But keywords are certainly important still, even in the semantic web and semantic search, but not as important as they used to be. And in order to quantify this, I really need to explain how it used to be and how it is. Now, in the past, we used to create content around keywords, which is wrong, but it worked back then because keywords were the principal means which brought a visitor to a website. This is not happening so much anymore. Keywords certainly will bring a visitor to a website, but people don't just use keywords to actually search. They use sentences, and there's an intent behind the sentences. Google works very hard to understand the intent of the query, of the search query, more than it does to actually look at the keywords itself. And in that regard, if it understands how a website actually operates and what it does, it can bring it up even if keywords which are contained on a page are not contained in the search query. This has never happened before, and this is why it is so radical. So essentially, you can't really create content anymore in semantic or for semantic search based around keywords, but you need to create content based on what your website does. If you do this correctly, inevitably you will be using some of the keywords which are associated with your business vertical and the nature of your website. But we're moving away from having a traditional list of keywords which would help us rank in search on specific positions, and now we're getting into a world where the content we create actually has deeper value.
So what then is the role of link building, as a lot of people used this in the past, and how's it changing?
Within this traditional way of working on the web, in the past also, we used to use links to drive a website up in search. And essentially links in Google's link graph were like a vote of confidence in the authority of a website, and Google then would rank that website accordingly to the number, by going by the number of links or backlinks it had. As you can probably imagine, it was abused to death pretty much, and Google has clamped down on this pretty hard. As a result, in a semantic web, in semantic search, Google looks at links very carefully in order to ascertain the authority of the website, in order to establish the authenticity of the link and the intent behind the link when it links to that website. So it sentiment mines very much the link which is given to a website. This has changed link building drastically. Again, if you go out and buy, for instance, links pointing to your website, you're more likely to damage it than actually help it rank. So the only way that you can now get links to your website is to get people to link to your website, and the only way you can do that is to make your website linkable. And what does that mean? It means essentially that you need to create content that is genuine, it has real value, it's authentic in nature, and it resonates with the online audience. And if you do all that, then you should be okay.
Let's now have a look at the role of content and how that's changing as well.
This naturally brings us to the next question, which is how content was used in the past. And essentially, content in the past was a signal for ranking. If you created content every day, and it was of a specific length, for instance, 400 words or 350 words, and it contained specific keywords. All these were ranking signals which helped our website rank. And it pretty much goes to what we covered in module 2, where we said that a website could be made to rank even though its content was complete nonsense. Content isn't like that anymore. In the past, we used to write primarily for search engines, and people were a secondary thought. And now it has gone the other way around. You write primarily for people, and search engines are the secondary thought. And if you write like that, then search engines, paradoxically, begin to like your site and they begin to rank it because it delivers a good end user experience, which Google uses as one of its main parameters for ranking websites.
As you can tell from this stage in the Google Semantic Search course, Google search is changing. And therefore, if search is changing, then marketing's changing as well for a lot of people. So the next question for David is, what about the 4 E's from Ogilvy and Mather?
Now that's a very interesting question, because the 4 E's essentially are the natural evolution of what for many years, for almost 50 years in traditional marketing, we used to call the 4 P's. And the 4 P's are based on Philip Kotler's book on the principles of marketing, which came out in 1967. And they were product, place, price, and promotion. And essentially, if you had the right product in the right place at the right price and you promoted it correctly, you were guaranteed a success, pretty much. And that world is gone now. We don't operate like that. And the transition of the 4 P's, which are product, place, price, and promotion, has now gone to what we call the 4 E's, which are experience, every place, exchange, and evangelism. And essentially, you need to experience something other than just see it as a product. It has to be pretty much everywhere, otherwise it will not catch your attention. There has to be an exchange of values. It has to give you some kind of value in order for you then to pay money for it and get it. And promotion, as we well know, in the social web, has been basically substituted by evangelism. If you can't create evangelists out of the people who come to interact with your product or service, then you're highly unlikely to really get anywhere very quickly.
So what then is the idea of 1,000 true fans?
We talk online about a business or a brand or even a person finding their audience. And what does that mean exactly? It means that by finding your audience, you connect with the people who most benefit from what you do and what you have to say, what you have to sell, what you have to deliver in terms of online content. And within that group, which is inevitably going to be fairly wide if you work online, there's going to be a core which will absolutely connect with you because what you deliver is of direct value to them. The idea of the 1,000 true fans is that if you can find a core audience which will give you the equivalent of a single day's pay, which is about $150, I think, in the course of a year, then you can make a pretty good living. It sounds very easy to do. It isn't. You really have to be genuine in what you do. You really have to understand the depth of what you're actually trying to achieve. And then you have to work really hard to deliver that kind of value. If you are expecting somebody to part with cash easily, which is again, it's an exchange of values, then you have to deliver a lot of value for them in order for them to be able to make the decision in a sort of less resistant way and give you the money you expect. If you work really hard, and I think there are examples like Seth Godin, for instance, who's been blogging for about 10 years now, and he has a very strong core audience who will pretty much, he has 1,000 true fans, I'm pretty sure, who will basically believe so strongly in what he does that they're willing to give him the amount of money which he needs in order to make that kind of living. And that is the basic principle behind it. Now, this is very relevant in what we do in semantic search, because one of the key elements of semantic search is authenticity. You need to be yourself. You can't go around faking it. You can't go around trying to sort of PR project an image which is not real, and you can't hope to bamboozle everybody into thinking that you're something which you're not. So essentially the advice is be yourself. That's the easiest thing to be. And if you're yourself, you're also unique, because, believe it or not, you can't be anybody else. Everybody else is taken. So you have to be you. And if the you who happens to be you has actually something valid to say and something valid to do, then you begin to deliver value and people begin to connect with who you really are as opposed to who you're trying to be. There's a big difference here, because if they buy into you, the real you, then they also understand why they did it. And the connection made and the relationship made are both stronger and more valuable, because again, if you are into the business of selling something, whether it's a product or a service or information, then you have people following you who are more likely to actually give you money for it. So you begin to make the kind of living. This, of course, brings us naturally now into what we discussed in Module 2, which is the importance of trust, reputation, and authority. Because this is all relationship marketing. And the moment we use the word marketing, everybody thinks that there's going to be some kind of trick. And in this case, it isn't. You have to establish real relationships before you can hope to market anything. You have to gain people's trust, you have to build up your own reputation, and you have to prove your authority. If you can't do those three things, I would argue you have no business being online trying to do business. You have no place, because what you're doing is essentially false and it's not going to work. So within the be real, be yourself, be authentic parameters, you have to work in a way that helps people understand who you are, and that helps build trust. You have to deliver value, which people can actually understand, and that helps build your reputation. And then you have to show and prove that you really know what you're doing, and that builds up your authority. Now, if you do those things, working online becomes so much easier, and you're going to gain from it.
So, that was the end of session 3 of Google Semantic Search, exclusive to plusyourbusiness.com, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care.